Good day, everyone. We're done in the discussion of physical education and health related components. To begin with this topic, let's have another question that will lead us for our discussion. Have you ever noticed that our capability is different from one another as an individual? If yes, this topic might help you to answer that question. For this discussion, we will discuss the skill-related components. Actually, skill-related components is the partner of health-related components for we to achieve physical fitness. But what is the difference between the two? Once we said skill-related components, these are the capability of the body to perform a certain movement and activity in a certain situation. So what is the difference between the two? Once we talk about skill-related components, it discusses the holistic ability of our body. Meanwhile, in health-related component, it discusses certain part. An example of that will serve as the cardiovascular. It focuses into the heart and vessels. Meanwhile, the flexibility focuses into the bones or into the skeletal system. On the other hand, this skill-related components is the holistic or the whole performance of the body to do a certain activity or task. So that is the difference between the two. And once we said skill-related components, this belongs to the capability of the whole body as an individual. It also involves movements that we'll use for our daily activities. So that is skill-related components. Actually, skill-related components divides into 6 parts, which are the agility, power, speed, coordination, balance, and reaction time. Later on, we will discuss what are the differences between those 6 for we to easily understand what is these skill-related components. So what are we waiting for? Let's go to the next slide. Agility. Agility refers in the ability of the body to change position or direction from one place to another. Let's look at into the example that I prepared into the slide. Look how a certain person or individual transfer from one place to another. So of course, once he transfer from one place to another, that particular person also changing his or her position. And that is what we call agility. Once you change your position, you're also changing your direction. But you must control on how will you change your position either or direction, because if not, unexpected movement might occur, and that is agility. Another example of agility is the sport of badminton. As a player, you should know how to adjust into the shuttlecock for you to hit and return to your opponent, or else you will lose the game. Transferring from one place to another is very necessary for the players to do for you to win this game. There's a lot of sports that use agility, especially team sports like basketball, volleyball, soccer, football, so on and so forth. These sports use different movements because they need to transfer every now and then. Because if not, they might lose their game. So therefore, as an individual, we also change our direction in different kinds of tasks we have for the day. And that is also serve as the agility. Even that we are not involving ourselves in terms of sport, our tasks like walking, running, or sometimes changing route while walking is a form of agility. So that is what we call agility. After agility, we also have this kind of speed. Once we talk about of speed, it refers to the ability of the body to make a swift movement in a short period of time in a certain distance. In speed, we make a fast movement in a certain distance. An example of the sport who use speed is the running events, like as I presented into your example. The player or the athlete must finish the distance as fast as he can. And into the latter part of the track, the player will have the record on how long he finished a particular distance. So dito lalabas yung result nila na 9 seconds and 12 milliseconds or 10 seconds and 56 milliseconds. It depends on how long they took that particular distance for them to finish the track. Another example of that will serve as the 100-meter dash, swimming, marathon, so on and so forth. So this is the time when we use speed. Once we talk about speed, it refers on how fast we finish the distance. So that is what we call speed. The third skill-related components that we will discuss is the reaction time. Once we talk about reaction time, it is the capability of the body to react in a certain stimuli. Look at the example that I was presented into the slide. The task of the girl, she must catch the ruler. Once the ruler was being dropped by the partner, the girl needs to catch the ruler. And that serves as the reaction time, how fast your body can react into the dropping of the ruler. So that is a reaction time. Another example is in running events or in track and field. One of the best examples of this component is the runners in track like 100 meters or 200 meters or so on. You see the runners into the track, they will have a certain signal for them to start the race. The ready, set, go. Of course, in ready, set, the runners must stay in their position. But once we have this kind of go, that is the time your reaction time was being stabilized. Because of the go, that will serve as the signal. That will serve as the time for you to run. And that is a form of reaction time. Your body is reacting based on the situation around yourself. So therefore, you will have a certain body movement based on the situation. Another example for the reaction time is, what if you're not an athlete? How does reaction times applies into your daily lives? An example of this is you're a driver. Example, you're a driver, then suddenly you see a child who's running and chasing for a ball. Definitely, the reaction of your body is to hit the brake for you to not collapse or for you to not hit the child. And that is what we call reaction time. Let's continue our discussion with regards to the coordination. Once we said coordination, it refers to the ability of the body to use its senses. Once we talk about senses, we do have sense of sight, sense of hearing, and sense of touch, and different senses. So how does coordination occur into the sport or into the everyday lives of an individual? Once we talk about coordination, it is a kind of component that refers into the combination of the senses and motor skill. Let us focus into the example into the slide. Imagine that if the boy doesn't have the capability to see the ball, do you think he will catch it? Of course not. We use our senses together with our body movements to do certain tasks. Another example is in the sport of archery. For you to be able to hit the target, you use your sense of sight to see and to hit the target. Together with the senses, you apply proper motor skill, which is pulling the string of the bow and releasing it. That combination includes coordination. From the word coordination, your senses and your body movement or action combine to achieve a certain movement for the task. So again, that is coordination. Next, power. Once we talk about power, it is the ability of the body to use its force with speed. So once we said power, muscular strength and muscular endurance involves in this kind of components. Since our muscle consists force, that particular force turns into power. So what is the connection of that force into the speed based on the definition? Actually, in speed, the faster the movement, the greater the impact. An example of that will be this one. Example, there is a two collision. One collision is made by two cars with fast speed, and another collision is made by a two car with a moderate speed. Which do you think will have a greater force or impact? Of course, the cars that use a faster speed compared to other. Why? Because speed affects the force. And once it affects the force, it also affects the power. That is what we call power. The combination of the force and speed is equivalent into the power we have. This can be seen into the sport like in boxing. Diba? In boxing, the quicker the punch, the greater the impact. Example, in Taekwondo, the quicker the kick, the greater the impact. So that is the relevance of speed and force into the power. The last component that I will discuss for this topic will serve as the balance. Once we talk about balance, it refers into the ability of the body to maintain its body equilibrium. Once we talk about balance, it refers on how we sustain equality in the distribution of our weight into the body. For a certain situation, these components help us for you to remain steady for a certain activity. So therefore, it is very necessary for us to remain our balance we will because if not, we might fall and we might not do our task effectively. This kind of component is very effective in the form of yoga, walking, and riding a bicycle. Imagine if you don't have balance in this activity or in this kind of situation, what will happen into your daily lives? So therefore, that is the essence and importance of balance. If we will compare these components into the lives of an individual, the distribution of time must be in accordance to the needs for us to perform our tasks. As an individual, we should know our priorities in life, and that is how we distribute components into our situation. So again, that is balance. To sum it up, this serves as the summary of the physical fitness. All of us wants to become physically fit, and that can be achieved by means of health-related components with or includes the cardiovascular endurance, flexibility, muscular strength, and muscular endurance. Meanwhile, it also includes skill-related components with agility, speed, power, coordination, balance, and reaction time. So again, this is Ruben B. Palama. Thank you and have a nice day ahead.